doing a good job until I really thought about it, and then I realized I wasn't doing a good job, is air quality, dust control. Just like every, big shop, you're gonna have a dust collector for your big tools. And what the dust collector is gonna do, it's not so much a dust collector as it's like a chip collector. It's gonna collect a lot of those big pieces off the joiner, off the planer. It's gonna take them all. We have the separator, and then we have the bag and the filter. And it works good. It gets a lot of the stuff out of the tools. But I noticed, it's the Harbor Freight model. So it's not super big, it's not super powerful. It does a good job, but I do know tools like the table saw, there is still dust coming out off the saw, still dust coming at me, especially, cutting plywood and MDF for the cabinet projects. So, that first stage is you try to collect the dust at the source. So the dust collector, vacuum for sanding, vacuum for the router table, vacuum for the miter saw. You try to collect that dust at the source. That's going to be the primary way to collect sawdust, to get the dust out of the air. However, it's not perfect. It's not going to get everything. Using a Festool sander, if I had a Festool vacuum, that'd be great. It would get a lot of the dust off the piece, out of the air, and encapsulate and keep it inside the vacuum. But that's not always the case. So from there, you can see up there, that is one of two large dust filters, dust extractors, air filters that I have in the shop. This is the Den-Wenny 360 degree model, so it has filters all the way around. It pulls the air in, and I have it set so it blows the air up, the clean air up. What that does, it's going to try to help circulate airflow, keep the air up and moving so it comes out, sucks it in, instead of having it blow down. I could be wrong the way I think about that. I do know because the shop is, is a tall ceiling, is I want to keep the air up top. I want that air moving. The hot air is going to rise. I want to be moving that air. So that's going to be my primary overall air filter. It does an amazing job. I can't believe how dirty those filters get just having that running while I'm working, while I'm painting, while I'm cutting. Really notice a significant difference in the air quality. So that is, aside from the dust collector, that's going to be my primary or my secondary way to manage dust in the air in the shop. Welcome to the paint booth. It's just a little walled out area, very intentionally walled out, partly so we can run a loft across there. So it's a room for painting, but it's also support so we can have extra storage up there. And inside my little paint booth, I've got another filter. This is the Pure System 1100 IG. It's one-way directional, so it is, paint spray is coming up. It is pulling paint spray. It's blowing air out this way. That also does help. If I have them running in tandem, I have it blowing air towards my primary secondary filter. I guess this is my secondary filter. But then inside the paint booth, I call it the redneck. Really, the redneck setup is that I have furnace filters over box fans. And what those furnace filters are going to do is, again, these box fans, they do move a lot of air. And, they're trying to collect as much as I can at the source. I'm trying to contain as much paint spray inside this room, having as many filters as I can, fans and filters running to collect as much of that overspray as I can. And, switching to airless from HVLP, what I've noticed is HVLP has a lot of small dry, floaty overspray, whereas an airless sprayer has a lot of heavy, wet overspray. So an airless, the mess is a lot more concentrated. On the HVLP, you have a lot more fine dust everywhere. So switching over to an airless system, switching to the Quick Shot, I've been able to control and manage the mess a lot more. The miter saw is probably the worst tool when it comes to dust collection, and you can see people have these incredible built-in surround shrouds for the saws, which is great if the saw is never going to move, and especially if it's a zero clearance saw, which this is not, and this saw gets moved around a lot, so we just have it mounted here. I do have a little shop vac sitting down under here that's hooked up to this saw, so just turn the saw on, make my cuts, trying to collect as much of that dust as I can. You can see I do have a little built out area, so we do control some of the dust, so there's some natural built-in dust control along with the vacuum. This station still does get very messy. That's part of the reality of using a miter saw. You know, DeWalt 12-inch is a great shop saw. Shop chop saw. Not a great carry around and try to use everywhere kind of saw. So there's that. Down here we have my primary sanding vacuum. I believe it's a 12-gallon rigid, 6.5 horsepower. This kind of not the biggest, most powerful, but close to the biggest and most powerful and quietest shop vac that Rigid makes. Rigid vacuums are still fairly loud compared to the new DeWalt Stealth Sonics, which I have one of those hooked up to my CNC machine back at my home garage. But you know, so this is my primary sanding vacuum. You know, I have attachments, hooks up to my sanders, and it does a pretty darn good job of collecting dust. You know, part of it, you know, the Festool sanders have do naturally push a lot of air out through the vacuum, so that helps vacuum. Just always using a vacuum when I'm sanding, it does like 90%, 95% of the fine dust particles. I try to use it as much as I can for small tools like a biscuit joiner, the domino, hand routers. They said, you know, the dust control does get worse using those. The more small hand tools you use, in some ways, the worse the dust collection gets, because the harder it is to keep switching and the more frustrating it is to keep switching the vacuum from tool to tool to tool to tool, whereas I just want to pick it up, move it around, use it, and put it down without having to switch everything, because it really throws off the flow. And we'll get to how I kind of work around that. All right, and kind of the last at the source dust collection setup we have, the router table. This is the Skill router table that I bought early last year. It's still going strong. I've kind of had to make up my own fence to try to get it to run flat all the way across. For dust collection, you know, in here, and you can see it's a mess because the routers just are not super clean. This is a small rigid shop vac, so not the most powerful. So you can see there's, you know, again, there's a lot of dust in here, and it does, when it's not clogged or full, it does a pretty good job of collecting at the source. Problem is, because this vacuum is in there, it's not so big, and I don't check it very often. It does get filled up completely and packed quite often, and all of a sudden it just ends up, there's dust flying everywhere. And especially, you know, routing MDF, HDF, is that even with the vacuum, there is still a lot of fine floaty dust in the air, and which really, especially working with this tool, kind of brings me to the whole point of this video, which we'll get to. All right, and then, so the question is, we have dust control at as many of the sources as we can, try to control the dust at the source. We have 2 secondary dust control systems to get the dust out of the air, but if you have worked with wood, MDF, paint, drywall, whatever, is that there's still dust. There's always gonna be a little bit of dust, unless you are at the most expensive manufacturing plants in the world. And, you know, that brings up to the next point. The last step that you can do is to wear a mask. And admittedly, I have not been good at wearing a mask. I'm not talking about COVID. I'm not talking about any of that. I'm talking about wearing a mask in a woodworking shop, which was a pre-COVID thing. It's a post-COVID thing. You know, it's just, in the shop, I have not been good wearing a mask. And one of the reasons why is the disposable dust masks those being a consumable item is that you have to keep buying them. You have to keep buying them. And because the cost is so low and they're designed to be thrown away, is that, you know, and I just feel I keep losing them. I keep losing them. They are uncomfortable to wear. They're not very, they're not very nice. You know, the tight rubber bands on the ears, all that. So that's on the very, very low end. On the higher end, you can get a full-on respirator. And the respirator is really nice because, you know, I have facial hair, so it's not, you know, if you ever done a fit test, you always have to shave that all off, put the mask on, and they spray a scent. And if you can smell the scent, doesn't fit right. If you can't smell the scent, you have a good fit. You know, you can get carbon filters. So low end, a throwaway dust mask. The high end, this rubber respirator. But what I found with both of them, you know, those low end masks and the upper end respirators, is that they're both very, you know, for different reasons, they're very uncomfortable, cumbersome, and not, I don't want to wear them for long periods of time. And that's like just sort of the idea that all these things are kind of in the way. That, yeah, I know lung cancer is bad, but in the moment, my ears hurt, behind my ears hurt. It's hot, it's sweaty, it's foggy, it all stinks. Until recently, another mask company reached out to me, and I've been trying these out. These are the Basecamp dust masks from Basecamp. They sent me, you know, to try out, they sent me 2 models. They sent me the N Plus model, which has a single strap around back of the neck, and then they sent me their standard model, which, what is that? Yeah, it's just kind of the standard mask, which has a head strap around the head and then around the back of the head. And I've been wearing these, and they solve so many of the issues that I've had with dust masks. They're not heavy, they're not sweaty and sticky, but the straps are also soft. And because they are nicer, a little bit more premium design, I am keeping track of them a little bit better. And what I've found is, you know, are they as good as a respirator? No, they're not gonna filter out the organic particles the same way a respirator will, but they are better than, you know, your standard dust mask. They're very, very breathable. What I have now is I keep one in the shop with me, and I keep one on the job site. This N Plus model, I like it for wearing short periods of time. Take it on, take it off, take it on, take it off. This model, their standard model, I like just for wearing long periods of time, such as if I'm in the shop painting or sanding or cutting or whatever. You know, really nice, you know, really soft, really breathable. They do have replaceable inserts. I believe these inserts are rated for about 40 hours of use. So, you know, one of these, if I wear these for a full week in the shop, which obviously I'm not wearing it right now. So these will last, you know, a long period of time. The mask comes with a good supply of the inserts, so you don't have to worry about that. And, you know, I think it's just one major step in trying to think about the longevity of being in this business, trying to maintain my health a little bit better. There, at my local Sherwin-Williams, one of the associates who has worked there for a very long time, he was there before we moved down to Pennsylvania when I was in high school. So I was, you know, 14, I'm going to be 33. So I've known him for close to 20 years. He was just recently diagnosed with pulmonary fibrosis, and, you know, it's one of those things. It's scary. There's another man I used to work with in commercial construction, and he was a concrete guy, and again, can no longer work. Very serious issues, and it's one of those things. You start, you know, you think you're invincible, and you're not. And to do this for a long period of time is that you have to start, I'm no longer in my 20s. I have kids now, and start thinking, okay, what are the things that I need to do in order to be able to do this for a long time, and then still be able to enjoy my life after I'm done doing it. And these masks, something like this, which is my last line of defense after all these dust collection things, for now, seem to be the answer that I've been looking for, where I don't mind wearing them, so that barrier of entry is a lot lower. I have one in my car, so I bring that with me to the job sites, doing drywall or installs or whatever. So I have that mask there. I have the mask in the shop, and I've noticed, a complete, absolute difference from when I don't wear it to when I do wear it. And I look forward to wearing them and for continuing to work in this industry for many more years to come. So my name is Greg with Spotted Tongue Woodworking. I'll see you next time.